Call the school board meeting to order of August 6th. Since Dave is here tonight, I'll appoint Dick as the clerk. If you would take a roll call, please.
John Westwall.
Here.
Norm Dornfeld. Here. Dave's missing. Will Holman.
Here.
Jim Condon.
Present.
Ron Andes. Here. Dick Fink here. Okay. Dave Wallendoff is missing.
Proof of notice.
As listed in the agenda.
Approval of the agenda. So moved. Motion by Joe, second by Ron. We are removing 9C.
There's one on the back too.
Okay. And resolution 37. Any questions on the agenda? Joe?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried 6-0-1. Citizens' comments. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Kathy Sertich, 275 High Street, Mayville, Wisconsin. And I am here to speak on item on your agenda, yes, I want to say 8, yes. I want to disclose a couple of things on this. First of all, I was an alderperson for 4 years, chairperson for finance, well aware of all the TID areas in the city here. Know how they function very, very well. We implemented one new one while I was there, and we cleaned up the mess on 2 of them that were existing. One that has since been closed out, another one that should be closed out, and that is why I'm here. I want to also disclose that I had conversations going back to 2016 at the end when the budget was done for 17 and questioned why this TID number 3 was not shut down. I am well aware of the status of that TID. I've been following that dearly because of the things that we implemented while I was there. I was the chairperson for finance, president council, member at one time, and an alderperson for 4 years. So I'm well aware of the impact that the stakeholders have, which in your case is 43% as of last year in the tax structure. There are 4 players of the piece of the pie, and we are all taxpayers. We're all affected by this. However, you're concentrating on the school district part and making sure you get your fair share, and rightfully so. This should not, in my opinion, be dictated by the city without having conversations when a topic such as this that I would like to speak on tonight is being discussed. The statement of them saying you should watch it on your end, I think is totally unacceptable, in my opinion. When it has an impact of adding additional years on for the 3rd time for the same amount of money that it has been, it is concerning. The second amendment was done on August 25th, 2015. There was a resolution also that was done in 4850, excuse me while I put my glasses on, sorry, 4897. I do want to disclose that I have had conversations with my alderperson, who is very knowledgeable in the TIF. I've also had conversations with another prior alderperson and also a member of the school board. And we've had a lot of conversations digging into this mess of why this isn't closed. And there's been a lot of interesting things that have surfaced. In my opinion, looking at the total assessment, that TIF number 3 is well established. The thing that has concerned me a little bit is that this topic should be shut down, and should have been shut down, in my opinion, in 2016 for the implementation of 17. And that's why I'm going to ask for your consideration of shutting it down and of making a recommendation to the city. And I'm going to follow it up with one step more to protect all of us. But to give you some history, the cell tower was built by the city with TID number 3 funding. Lease was to be reimbursed the TID over the course of the lease. Now, we know back in 2015, obviously, there was an approval for the sale of leasing rights for the cell tower. It was a 3-3 tie, and it was broken by the mayor at that time, which I did have conversations with that mayor and was very, very opposed to it. Questioned where the money was going to be applied, which consisted of $180,000. And never really got an answer. I knew what direction he was going in, and my conversation wasn't very, very, I think I probably could have done a better job with some of the language, let's put it that way, because I didn't think that perhaps that's where it should go. Based on the leases, well, I was there, we always put the lease money into the TID, which is where it should go. If we financed it with the understanding of the stakeholders, that everything would come in. This business of saying that you are entitled to X amount of dollars for maintenance, all you're doing is transferring numbers on a piece of paper. That's not $6,000 worth of work that has to be done by anybody. The city picks up the tab for the audit. So you're protected on that part of it. The part that concerns me is how some of this wants to be swept under the carpet, or let's just move on and call it a wash. Well, there's a couple of things that I feel that need to be stated on that part of it. I first contend that the funds for the sale of the lease rights to this tower owned by the city, built by the TID funds, is to be reversed by the lease payments as increments to the TID and our property of the TID, number 3, and not the city's general fund where this was put in. This has all come out. Then there was an issue that came into play where it was taken and moved on paper to the CDA, which really was mind-boggling to me, because you do have a lot of state restrictions, federal restrictions on any TID money that you move around. There are guidelines that need to be done. To me, it did not seem like there was a lot of transparency. If you feel so strongly about something, you need to be looking at all the elements that are available in the city to be able to pull off and help other areas, which I totally agree need help. But you can close out a strong TID as 3. If you feel so strongly, implement a new one if you feel that strongly on it. You gotta get buy-off from all the pieces of the pie. And I, as a taxpayer now, resent it very much that I am paying for money for the same time for the 3rd time. I also believe that the property of the TID, that this should also be corrected, and that an audit should be done. Now, the concern with the audit versus doing the budget part is an audit normally starts around the beginning of October of every year. And it takes a little bit, then they go in and they schedule the stuff. This needs to be hopefully under consideration, with all due respect to all of you here as a stockholder, that you as well feel as strong as this. To me, what I find interesting on this is that you pay a good commission to the person that is handling this extension going into 2019. Say $50,000 to $55,000 commission per year. So now you're up to either $100,000 or $110,000 you're paying on commission that does not need to go out there. You guys are going to be fine. We're all going to be fine. The sooner we get the thing closed out and get it on the tax roll, knowing that you have the assessments that are in there right now is a benefit for all of us to move on. A TID is not something that gives people funny money to play around with. That's when municipalities get in trouble. And that is exactly what's going to happen with the city of Mayville. We cleaned up one TID mess while we were, matter of fact, both of them that were in, including TID number 3, where we could have lost a lot of money and fought very hard for the building that M6 had, and it was a firm out of Michigan. I fought like heck to protect the taxpayers of the city. And I resent it now that this money is being floated around that can be used for anything that anybody feels they want to have when it should have been shut down this year. So it looks like you got, let's say, this money of $55,000 on commission for 2 years, $100,000 to $110,000, to extend it to 2019. I'm not even sure how the question really was approached by the person that asked the question if this could be done or not. That's number one. Number two, the money should have never been put in the general fund. It didn't belong in the general fund. Now, the argument can come into play is, does the school district actually have 3 years or 4 years underneath the recapture or to recoup what you have coming for the term of it? There's no penalty for closing a TID out early if you can close it out early. In fact, there's no benefit for doing it because you're so restricted to the money that you should be able to pull out of there without question and apply it somewhere. So one can really question how much thought was put into this thought process on here. But I have a real problem with the transparency. We're all players in this room here, all of us are, of why something like this can happen. How conversations can be made of, well, let's just call it a wash. First of all, you don't know, we received more money at the time that lease was closed out on that resolution. So you don't even know the $2 that you really still could recoup on your end. But even in saying that, you're gonna get it no matter if you shut it down now or not, because you've got that money that's into place. It's not uncommon to have like $12,000 to $15,000 normally in a TID when you're ready to close it out that is a shortfall. That's not uncommon either. That's expected in a TID. We're lucky that that would be all that would have been in there. But we were very fortunate we were able to get that TID turned around. So I respectfully ask for your consideration tonight to send that letter out requesting this to the city of Mayville, and also in the letter asking for an independent audit to be done on the TID immediately upon closure. And that's not only to protect you as a school district, but it's the other outside areas that are involved here. And I thank you very kindly for allowing me to talk tonight, and feel free to call me if you need anything else. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Is there any chance I could go out there and do the presentation so people probably understand what she was talking about? Because I got some numbers.
Sure.
I sent it to you.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Last minute. I was trying to get the paperwork. It's just 2 slides, really simple. All right, everything she was talking about, just to let you know, back in 2015, I was actually one of the aldermen, and we were up there, and we were short money for what was called the 9-year plan. One of the things that we thought about was, hey, let's sell the rights to the cell phone tower. What we did by selling rights to the cell phone tower is we recouped 11 years worth of payments, whether there was a lot of disagreement whether or not that was worth it because of different money. Obviously, a cell phone tower was built by the TID funds, as she said, and like I said, we were short money for the 9-year plan that we were doing. So what we did is we sold the rights to the cell phone tower. In turn, we put that into the general fund. That was part of that thing that ended up happening. So you see right there, it was about $11,400 per year. I didn't get the documents in time for the stuff. I just tried from memory. So it was $11,400 per year times 11 years is basically what you're doing. And if you times that, so that money, what we were getting from that cell phone tower was actually putting money into the TID. By selling the rights and putting that in our general fund, we were robbing the TID of money that should have been in there in order to go ahead and that it should have been closed out already. That's another issue right there. Go to the next slide. All right, as you can see right here, I'd be shocked if a DOR audit doesn't find this out and fine us for this type of stuff, just to let you know. I expect some type of fines to come in just because you're not supposed to do that. in turn, I think one of the things that we could do is the city should immediately put $34,200 into the account, and which would automatically put the account in the black, and it should close out. The money should have never been put in the general fund. We also did sell it at a premium, so if you take the $180,000, divide that by the 11 years, it comes out to $16,363 per year. So we were just getting a premium price for that right there. So actually, you could say that, hey, 16,363 times 3, there could be some debate of whether or not it would be times 4. But you can see right there, already the city pocketed an extra $14,890, no matter what. Either way, I think that Kathy's absolutely right. I was part of this up at the city. I'm on a different team now, just to let you know. I'm on the school district team. But that was the issue that went on, and all that money got put into the general fund. Obviously, with the cell phone tower money, that money should have went into the TID no matter what for the last 3 years, and we should have been putting that into the TID. And I still think it could be a premium. If not, there could be debate on the full $180,000. If you put the whole $180,000 into the TID, then because it was built with TID money, then it's 40%. I've heard the number 40. You might have got some different numbers of 43, where we get 43% of that 180. But that's, you know, there's some different debates. I think that if we just get this thing closed out, but if the city is trying to charge us even for these fees, it's just like I said the last time, the fees are just, they're obnoxious to try to charge back fees when the other TIDs, we were crossing money across TIDs for all kinds of stuff, just to clean up bad stuff of this city. So there was a lot of that going on. These fees, that we've paid these fees 10 times over. It's at the point. Number one, we should close it out. Number two, the money should go in there, and it's going to get caught in the audit anyways. So the audit's going to have a problem with this. Something bad is going to end up happening, unfortunately. But I just wanted to make sure you guys knew all this as well, because that is correct about the cell phone tower.
Is the audit?
Oh, go ahead.
Automatic?
The audit, well, there's actually 3 audits in the lifetime of a TID. You got them in the, but you're supposed to have, once it terminates another audit, we can request an audit. There should be also a yearly, looking at the financials as well. These aren't like big audits. These are numbers not too hard to play with, but it will catch this right here. If we don't refund the money, the school district could be fined, the city of Mayville could be fined, the county could be fined, Moraine Park could be fined. This was all done behind your guys' backs, just to let you know, even this right here, selling a cell phone tower, no one was paying attention at the school district. This was all done behind the school district's back, the county's back, Moraine Park's back, and it was to clean up some dark, dirty messes that were going on at the city with all kinds of money issues that we were having at the point. And we were trying to get back on track with the 9-year plan, and costs were going up, everything from healthcare going up 17%. And so thought process came about, well, let's sell the cell phone tower. That'll clean up the dark, dirty mess, and now it's rearing its ugly head right now. And it's, but I know that a lot. Last time we did this, you guys were saying, well, I don't have enough information. I'm asking and almost pleading with you guys, it's time to do the right thing. I was part of doing the wrong thing. It's time to do the right thing, clean up the mess. It's time to close out this TID. It's going to help out our taxpayers. It's going to help out our school district with funding. It's a win-win when you really just do the right thing at this point. I don't know necessarily the argument of the $180,000. That's a different argument. I think right now what we should be doing is asking the city to, because there was a premium, and I know right now it would be 3 years, there could be debate on 4, to have the city put back $16,363. I believe the city should put back into the TID. That's my belief. Based upon, we got a premium, you gotta remember, it was built with TID work, the school district's money, that tower is built with, that the school district should receive the premium of that. No matter what, it should be closed, it should be in the black. It's not. So what we're doing is we're affecting all our taxpayers, our students. We're not getting the proper funding, our school district, and all this for some all kinds of cleaning up, and we had other TID errors going on that, and I'm not gonna bring up companies and stuff like that, I won't do that out here. But there was some other accounting errors that went on with other mayors prior to even Rediker on there with another company in Mayville that turned into a real mess, and we had to clean up a lot of the other TID messes too, which I think are gonna rear their ugly heads in another 10 or 15 years. So, I don't know, I hope you guys will just say, you know what, let's send this to the city and ask them to close it out. It's the right thing to do. And at this point, it's gonna help all the taxpayers and our students as well.
Troy, it's got a foot.
Yeah, sure.
Just that cell tower that we had, when we leased out a company to
Correct.
use, do we lease out to several different companies? I mean,
Yeah, so what ends
sections
up
of it?
happening is, we owned the cell tower before the city of Mayville, so we got money leasing it out to the different, like AT&T or whoever. I'm
It'd
not
be
saying
more
it's
than one
AT&T.
company
It would be
leasing.
more than one company.
That's
So
fine.
more than one company goes on a cell phone tower. Actually, by selling the cell rights, we could have lost money in the long run. It was kind of a risky decision, as you see. It's not a good decision, but we lost any future money because the cell phone towers could go up in price. We wanted the cash immediately to clean up another mess, and that's kind of what you end up getting, is you got a real mess. So at that point, and I was part of it too, and I have very intimate knowledge of this mess. So, and it's time to clean it up at this point. But like I said, I'm on a different team now. So.
I wasn't sure how you answered John's question. Is the audit automatic or?
The audit, no matter what we're getting an audit, you could request an immediate audit. I would request an immediate audit. So, but an audit is automatically, once it's closed out, the Department of Revenue actually audits that, the TIDs. So they're the ones who audit the TIDs. Once every TID that closes out, you also get, you get many different audits throughout a TID, smaller ones, but you get bigger ones, so you have to have at least 3 of them. So, and once the TID closes out, it's actually getting a Department of Revenue audit. And I think the Department of Revenue is going to end up saying, this isn't right. What's going on with this money? You can't, you can't have that. So they'll come in and they'll fine you at that point. And the school district will have to fork over money. But we can clean it up right now and do the right thing, close out the TID, and we're all good. We're just got to ask the city to do the right thing. They're going to come back and say, well, what about all the fees and stuff like that? Listen, the real fees of this are about $1,000 per year. If you think about the TID, all the fees were paid for within the TID itself over the many, many years of it. So when they come back and they say, oh, what about the fees in the past? We didn't charge for those. There was a reason we didn't charge for those. That's because the TID was bankrupt. So we had problems with the TID being bankrupt, and so that story's not out there. We all chose, including the school district, would have chose not to charge fees because the TID was bankrupt. So that was already a done deal. And then in 2015, with the deal going out, we extended this thing 3 different times already. So everything Kathy said is correct. Everything Bob Smith said is correct. Right now, it's just we're just playing the game of the city wants money. We all know that. Well, at the end of the day, it's let's do what's right and close this thing out. Let's put the money back in. And a lot of times people just look at the money and say, well, what's going to happen with the repercussions? I learn lessons every day. And the repercussions of this have reared its ugly head. So on stuff I did. So have already reared its ugly head. And at this point, it's time to say, you know what? It's time to do the right thing, close this out. And that's where I'm at with it. I mean, I'm asking all you guys, let's do the right thing. Let's send the city. We don't owe the city anything. Calling it a wash would be a bad thing because now the Department of Revenue, once this closes out, the Department of Revenue is going to audit this thing. We're going to be, you guys, including me, are going to be like, uh-oh, here's our fine. Moraine Park's going to get one. We're all going to have to eat this. So either do the right thing now, don't eat it, and we move on from this. And she said it correctly. If you want to open a new TID, well, let's open a new TID. And we've all learned something. We've all learned how to watch these TIDs every year. Maybe we need to brief up on the TIDs. Could be part of the annual talking about TIDs, even as a school district or whatever, because we're all part of these TIDs. And the TIDs, your biggest partner with the city and a TID is the school district. Marine Park and the county are 10% partners, but we are the biggest partners in these TIDs. We affect all our taxpayers and we affect our